Hello fight fans, thanks for joining us at MMA Insider. Before we get rolling with today's news, show some love by hitting that like button and subscribing. Now let's uncover the latest happenings in MMA. Starting off, Joe Rogan calls Max Holloway's UFC 300 win over Justin Gaethje the greatest KO ever. Moving on, Daniel Cormier stunned that Alex Pereira is a massive success in the UFC. Next, MMA fans react to UFC's poor treatment of Aljamain Sterling. Lastly, Chandler hints at future BMF title fight against Max Holloway. Joe Rogan believes that Max Holloway's victory over Justin Gaethje at UFC 300 is the greatest knockout ever. Over the weekend, Max Holloway and Justin Gaethje fought on the main card of UFC 300. The two competed over for the ceremonial BMF title that Justin Gaethje won last summer with a knockout victory over Dustin. For Max Holloway, he entered the bout riding a two-fight winning streak down at featherweight. The Hawaiian also entered the cage as a sizable underdog, and many fans counted him out. However, it wound up being a one-sided masterclass from Max Holloway on Saturday night. The former featherweight champion battered Justin Gaethje through 4 rounds and knocked him out with 1 second left in the bout. Speaking on the UFC 300 broadcast, Max Holloway's knockout was understandably praised by Joe Rogan. However, the color commentator took it one step further. In Rogan's view, Holloway's knockout victory over Justin Gaethje is the greatest knockout he's ever seen in his time watching the sport of MMA. Joe Rogan added that the knockout was the greatest because of how many fans counted out Max Holloway. It's also the greatest because the Hawaiian went for the finish when he really didn't have to. Here's what he said: "That's the greatest knockout of all time. With so many people counting him out, with so many people thinking he was outgunned, with so many people thinking he wouldn't have a chance against the firepower of Justin Gaethje. The fact that he called for that with 10 seconds left in the fight and put the lights out on one of the most dangerous men to ever fight in the sport. The fact that he did it this way too." Former two-division champion Daniel Cormier is stunned that Alex Pereira is a massive success in the UFC. It was just this past weekend that saw Alex Pereira get in the octagon with Jamal Hill in his first title defense for the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship. The result was a KO victory for Alex of round 1. Cormier is voicing his surprise at how successful Alex is, considering he doesn't feel Alex knows how to wrestle. Pereira, at 36, is the current UFC Light Heavyweight Champion and the former UFC middleweight champion. Alex is now eyeing the heavyweight division in a bid to become champion in 3 weight classes. Daniel Cormier, speaking on his ESPN show with Chael Sonnen, shared, "I'm sitting there at night going, how's he doing this when, with all due respect, because Alex and I have a great relationship, he can't wrestle. He does not know how to wrestle. When they grab his leg, he kind of just falls down. He can't wrestle. But he has got this singular skill set that is so good that it does not matter what he can't do. He's so good at what he does that he's now the best in the world." Do you agree with current UFC commentator Daniel Cormier that as a fighter who can't wrestle, Pereira is having an amazing run? Share your thoughts in the comment section. UFC 300 has come and gone, and the dust is yet to settle. Currently, the main controversy surrounds former bantamweight champion Aljamain Sterling. All winners at UFC 300 were given the opportunity to speak with Joe Rogan in the octagon following their victories, except for Aljamain Sterling, who was notably excluded from this privilege. In a recent interview, Sterling was questioned about this omission. He expressed his regret and belief that he did not deserve such treatment from the UFC, considering his significant contributions to the organization. MMA fans have reacted to his statement. Some agree with him, while others have criticized the UFC, arguing that Sterling should have been allowed his post-fight interview in the octagon. Here is what they wrote. "Sterling doesn't interest anyone. He is the most boring fighter in the history of the sport after Khabib and Islam. The UFC should release him. Ever since Aljo took that BS knee to the head and said he couldn't continue, he lost a lot of respect from everyone. He literally is as exciting as a backpack. Let's face it, the UFC isn't interested in meat blankets, wins and losses, or rankings. It's an entertainment thing. Otherwise, Bilal would have fought for a belt. I feel bad for Aljo, man. They shouldn't do anyone that dirty, man. I like Aljo. He's a good dude, and he makes everything look easy against the best in the world. Khabib is boring too. Messed up in my opinion. Not surprised. Aljo showed the most boring performance. He shouldn't be in that card. Chandler is interested in fighting for the BMF belt and facing Max Holloway in the future. On the main card of UFC 300, Holloway became the BMF champion with a highlight reel 5th round knockout win over Justin Gaethje. It was one of the best knockouts of all time, which impressed Chandler and has him interested in that fight in the future. Here is what he said. "It was crazy. That was obviously the best part of the fight, the last 10 seconds. Hats off to Max. Max would be a guy I would love to fight for that belt at some point. Obviously, I got a job to take care of here in 76 days, but man, I would love to fight for that BMF belt eventually and the lightweight belt as well. As Chandler says, the focus is on fighting Conor McGregor on June 29th at UFC 303. If Chandler defeats McGregor at UFC 303, he could get a lightweight title shot next time out. But Chandler knows before his career is up, he will need to fight for the BMF title, as he believes he embodies what a BMF is. Here is what he said. I mean, I don't like to. Probably my biggest downfall is I'm not the greatest self-promoter when it comes to telling people exactly who I am and how I operate. But there is nobody who embodies the BMF belt the way that they fight more than me. So I'll let my fighting do the talking, and I'm sure people will be talking about the BMF belt when I dispatch of Conor in June. But we will see. Magomed Ankalaev is calling for a title shot against UFC light heavyweight champion Alex Pereira in Abu Dhabi. Alex Pereira is hot off a knockout victory over Jamal Hill this past weekend at UFC 300. In his first light heavyweight title defense, Alex secured his victory over Hill of round 1 with a beautiful uppercut followed by some nasty ground and pound. Magomed is making it clear that the next opportunity for a title fight should be his. The 31-year-old called out Alex to fight him in Abu Dhabi. Here is what he said. Alex Pereira, congratulations. I will stop in the first round by knockout Dana White. The man doesn't have chin. Alex Pereira versus me, Abu Dhabi. Magomed last fought and defeated Johnny Walker by KO this past January in a light heavyweight bout. To date, no response has come from the Pereira camp to the call-out. However, following his victory at UFC 300, at the post-fight press conference, Alex Pereira did call out Tom Aspinall to fight him in 3 weeks at UFC 301. UFC CEO Dana White has already weighed in, saying it's a bad idea for Alex to fight Aspinall at this point. Would you like to see Magomed Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira in Abu Dhabi? Share your thoughts in the comments section. UFC commentator Michael Bisping has given his thoughts on Justin Gaethje's approach at UFC 300 last weekend. On Saturday night, Justin Gaethje fell short against Max Holloway. He lost his BMF championship, with Holloway managing to knock him out in the final seconds of their 5-round war. Moving forward, nobody really knows what's next for Justin. We've seen him involved in absolute wars in the past, and if he chooses to do so, we imagine he'll continue that trend in the future. In a post-fight breakdown, the aforementioned Michael Bisping gave his thoughts on how it all played out in Las Vegas. Here is what he said. I think he was a victim of his own success. Knocking out Dustin the way that he did and everybody riding the coattails, and being a fan for obvious reasons, he thought he was going to go right through Max Holloway. You know, he learned a very, very valuable lesson because he didn't have to take this fight. He was the next contender for Islam Makhachev. He was the rightful contender for the lightweight title. That just went up in flames. Thank you so much for tuning into today's video. Your dedication and support fuel our passion to bring you the latest and greatest in the MMA world. If you enjoyed today's news, please give us a thumbs up and share it with fellow MMA fans. Remember to subscribe to stay in the loop with daily MMA updates. We've got a lot of exciting news, interviews, and analysis coming your way every single day. Your engagement helps us grow and serve the MMA community even better. Once again, thank you for being an integral part of our daily MMA journey.